This Friday, your favorite emotions are back on the big screen in Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
It's time to greet your Team Riley. It's anger.
Let me at him.
Fear.
Safety checklist is complete.
Disgust. Ew. Sadness is in the house.
Oh, no.
Hello, I'm anxiety. I'm one of Riley's new emotions.
Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
There's a part 2? We're going!
Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters Friday. Get tickets now.
Hey, it's Anna. And to get us started this week on our new episode, I want to bring in Zoe Azulay, Death, Sex, and Money producer. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Anna.
This whole episode started how a lot of our episodes start. You as a producer on Death, Sex, and Money get a lot of emails with new books, new guest ideas, etc. What caught your eye for this episode?
Do you ever get a pitch in your inbox and it's just your first reaction is, I don't know, it's cringe or it's, oh, this isn't serious. It's sort of, it makes you feel sort of embarrassed and you click out of it. It's sort of an immediate like, no.
Yes, I know that feeling very well. And usually it's an episode that we ought to make, but I have to get over my embarrassment.
Right.
Yeah.
So you like click out of it and then like you find yourself thinking about it later, and then you realize, okay, wait, the thing that's like repelling me about it is probably exactly the reason that you should go towards it.
What was it about this particular pitch that made you click out?
Okay, so we got a pitch from a writer named Christopher Zara, and he had just written a memoir called Uneducated, and that was why we got the pitch at this time. Now, his memoir is straightforward about his life, a very interesting topic, which is the fact that he did not finish high school, he didn't go to college, and he was sort of floundering around in his 20s. And then in his 30s, he realized that he had this dream to become a writer, and more specifically, to become a journalist. So this memoir is about breaking into that occupation that's primarily reserved for people with college degrees, the barriers of getting his foot in the door. And then also when he got there, when he became part of this New York media world, still feeling really disconnected from his colleagues, especially in the way some of them reported on education, like after the 2016 election when there was this focus on the white, non-college educated voter, and Christopher is white, and that to his colleagues, this person was always somewhere far off in the middle of the country. And here Christopher was right there, and he felt excluded and invisible. So that's what the memoir is about. And that's what I just said is very interesting. And that's not the thing that made me react so strongly, obviously.
Oh, not obvious. What
Okay.
What was the thing that made you react strongly?
So our bodies are interesting. I mean, oftentimes when we feel anxious or nervous or an outsider in a situation, common advice will be just fake it till you make it. But in some cases, our bodies won't do that. They betray our confidence and show that there is something going on inside that we would prefer the world not to know. Christopher pitched us with an experience he has related to social anxiety, which he writes about in his memoir. And the bodily experience of it is that he cannot pee.
Okay.
He can't urinate when he has to sometimes. And it is sort of silly, this idea of this grown man writing into a podcast about this experience of not being able to pee. It's uncomfortable. But when I read it, I immediately knew exactly what he was talking about because I have had this experience before. And the way I can describe it is it's a bodily reaction to anxiety that can strike anywhere, at a bar, at friend's house, at work. And it's just like forgetting the muscle that allows you to perform this ancient, basic function you've been doing since literally your first day on planet Earth. And you'll hear with Christopher, like it becomes a debilitating problem in his life and has caused many situations to go wrong. And it resonated with me because I was confronted with the articulation of an experience I had never really put into words.
That's what made you click out of it.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How's it shown up for you?
So, I mean, I don't really believe in origin stories generally for conditions as perfect starting points, but I had some medical issues as a child, and it required me to go in and out of hospital settings, and part of that meant that I was peeing in front of nurses, I was peeing on command, and I wanted to be a good patient, and I wanted to follow the rules and do what I needed to do. But I found that was causing a lot of stress for me, and I could not pee on command. So I think that's when maybe the first time I experienced it. But then it has shown up for me in other scenarios, maybe when I am feeling anxious or there's a time pressure or I want to please someone by hurrying up. I think it comes from like a sense of wanting to please. And with Christopher's case, I connected with him because on the one hand, he's being brave and he's going into these elite spaces and trying to forge a path for himself. On the other hand, there's this sense of anger that I can kind of relate to, my inner child of feeling angry that I was put in these situations and having to listen to medical staff that maybe weren't always so sensitive to me, and sort of our bodies rebelling and being stubborn and saying like, no, I'm not going to do what you want me to do right now. You're making me show up and I don't feel comfortable. Huh. So there's this like push and pull with our bodies that just don't always cooperate with what we want them to do. So that's what we talked about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to turn over the controls to you, Zoe. I'm going to see what happened when you reached back out to Christopher from that email.
Thank you. I think it was a healing conversation for both of us. We had both of us never talked to anyone else who had this experience. And, you know, it's like a man and a woman talking about their bladders and the things that are connected to their bladders. And, like, it was just so nice.
Sounds like a great release.
Yeah. Yep.
Hungry Root is the easiest way to eat healthy. They send you fresh, high-quality groceries, simple recipes, and essential supplements. It's like having a personal assistant for healthy living. Like, for me, a big box arrives with recipes that I can make during the week that won't take that much time, that I can just get done in 20 or 30 minutes when it's dinner time. Also, snacks that we can grab and feel good about the whole rest of the week. And it has the kind of food that my family likes to eat and that we know is healthy. What you do is you take a fun short quiz, and Hungry Root will get to know your personal health goals, what you like to eat, and more, and then they build you a personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week and give you delicious recipe recommendations to go with those groceries. And each order is fully customizable, so you can take their suggestions or choose anything you want. Hungry Root has fresh produce, high-quality meat and seafood, healthy snacks, smoothies, sweets, ready-to-eat meals, kids' snacks, and much more. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Death, Sex, and Money listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/DSM to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/DSM. And don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. Spring is the best time to start a new workout routine. It's our yearly collective warm-up. Right now, I'm mixing up my routines, getting outside more, while also trying to make sure I keep up regular exercise. And Peloton can be your partner in that. It accommodates your schedule with a variety of class lengths to choose from. Even if you only have 5 minutes, Peloton has classes for you, giving you the flexibility you need to move your body, no matter your goal or mood. If you can't run, take a walking class. Need some grounding? Try yoga. If you want to level up, go for their Pilates or HIIT workouts. Peloton makes the process easy with personalized recommendations and guided programs that take out the guesswork of working out so you can jump right in, keeping your fitness journey fresh every day. Whether you prefer to run outdoors, row, or ride at home, or strength train at the gym, Peloton has something for you. Get a head start on summer with Peloton and choose a flexible payment plan that works for you at onepeloton.com/financing.
The essential sensation is you have to go to the bathroom really bad. You want to go to the bathroom. It's the most urgent thing your body is telling you to do, but it just won't happen.
This is Death, Sex, and Money, the show from Slate about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more. I'm Zoe Azulay. When we get started, I think we can turn off our videos just for sound quality and just so I think it helps concentrate a little bit.
I love that idea. I feel better already about this whole
we
video.
can go ahead and do that and just sort of be disembodied voices. I think.
That's great.
Okay. All right. So you emailed us a few months ago, and in that email, you used a technical term for a condition I have just referred to my entire life as pee anxiety. Can you pronounce it?
It's pronounced paruresis. Shy bladder syndrome, pee anxiety. They're I guess colloquial terms.
Yeah, so it's like like abnormal or defective, and then uesis, which I guess is related to urine. Can you describe what it feels like and when it shows up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is the part that is the most difficult thing to talk about because it really is, it's almost impossible to describe it to someone who doesn't have the condition. But imagine that you're unable to perform a basic function like move your hand or your leg or do something that your body normally would do. You're standing, in my case, in front of a urinal or wherever the bathroom is, and it just doesn't happen. And when people will say, like, we'll just go, like, it's hard to explain that you just can't.
Okay, I looked it up because maybe I was long overdue. Paruresis, or shy bladder syndrome, is a recognized issue by doctors and psychologists. It's thought to stem from anxiety. It seems both relatively common and also not written about that much in the mainstream. It has its own subreddit, because of course it does, and there I saw memes about what people say it feels like. A speeding train that stops right before the station. A toilet in front of rows and rows of auditorium chairs. I read stories about how nice activities like a picnic or a trip to Disneyland can become unbearable as your body decides to play dumb and pitch a fit. Christopher Zara is 53. And he wrote about not being able to pee in one chapter of his memoir, Uneducated. He said he hadn't really seen the issue depicted before, at least in the way he experienced it.
A lot of the literature on this describes it in a way that I almost feel like is not 100% accurate. It'll say, like, there's a fear of going to the bathroom in front of other people or a fear that you're being looked at. That's actually not quite how I experience it. What I experience is it's happened throughout my childhood, and now that I know that this thing happens, I have a fear that it's going to happen again.
Right.
And so it's really the fear of the fear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like the most dramatic memory I have from my early adulthood is exactly how you describe the fear of the fear. Like the idea of it happening is enough. Like I was in my early 20s and I just started a new job, and there was like this friend group that I wanted to infiltrate, and a couple of them had a boat together on the Gowanus Canal, and I got invited one day to come on the boat. I only kind of knew one of them, and I came out and we were like drinking beer on the boat. Driving down, it was a beautiful day, like under the Verrazzano, like long boat ride. We docked one place to go to the bathroom. And like I walked into the girls' room with these girls I didn't know. And I just thought, if you don't go now, you won't go for hours. And that was enough to be like, okay, it's just not happening. So I got back on the boat and like the guy was like trying to show off by going fast, and like the wake, every wave was awful. And then by the time we docked, I couldn't even stand up straight. I had duck
exactly.
out.
I know that situation. My situation was similar. One really bad one that sticks out is one of my first airplane rides as an adult. I wasn't really used to being on airplanes, and there's nowhere to go and be comfortable because you're on an airplane. You can't jump out the window. And I had a girlfriend at the time who was like, what's wrong with you? Just go. Like, and it was like,
oh my God,
not helpful. I couldn't make her understand. Like, it was like, it just won't happen. And similar to your case, it was like, I knew the anxiety of being in that situation where there's no option. Yeah. There's no plan B. Like, that makes it worse.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell them, like, I'm having this issue because we're literally in open water, and making myself known only makes it worse. And yeah, so it's the escape, like whenever you can escape to get back on your own time frame.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is what, once those experiences start to happen as a young adult, or in my case, really through childhood, it was a problem all through school. It just becomes a situation where you try to avoid that because you don't want that to happen. And it really can be disruptive to your life.
Now Christopher works as an editor for Fast Company. It's a business magazine which publishes stories about money, investing, and technology. Christopher grew up in a family without much money in Trenton, New Jersey. His parents didn't go to college and had secretarial jobs. School always made Christopher anxious. He had trouble reading and writing, and anxiety about keeping up showed up in his body.
I actually think it probably was so normal for me that I just assumed that, most people have the same problem, and, bathrooms were not a place to use in grade school. But I do remember there was a situation where, I would get a lot of bladder infections, and I think the doctors told my parents, is this kid going to the bathroom like a normal person? Because I think that might be part of the problem. And, so I remember my mom talked to me and was like, how come you're not using the bathroom at school? And I was just like, well, I just can't.
So you got a bladder infection from this?
Oh, multiple times. Yeah. It was, I was in a hospital once with some kind of infection where they had to like hospitalize me.
Did they ever have to put a catheter in?
Yeah, they did. They did. That was extremely unpleasant. I think I might have been in first grade, yeah.
Christopher's troubles in the classroom got worse as he got older. He got D's and F's, started skipping school and mouthing off to teachers. For a while, he said, he saw rage as a cure for shyness.
I had some behavioral issues to the point where I was getting suspended a lot and acting out. Mm-hmm. And they put me in this special education through the special education system, classified me as what they call emotionally disturbed. So, I think it was 11th grade. I got kicked out of the regular high school. And then I went to the special school for a little bit and also got kicked out of there because I stopped going.
Did your parents want you to go back to school? Like what was their relationship to education, and how did they feel when you dropped out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's an important one because, my dad, he finished high school, but barely. I mean, he was 19 when he got out, and he didn't really, he wasn't super academic. My mom would have gone to college, I think, had she had the opportunity, but she always tells the story that it was just expected that she would get married and have kids. So, when I dropped out of high school, I don't remember really anyone pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, kid, this is a really bad idea. Like, you're going to screw your whole life up." Mm. I think my parents were probably like, "Okay, great. You're dropping out of school, then go get a job." But no one told me that, you're going to really need college and education to get any kind of a decent job. Like, I don't recall that ever happening.
And you have 2 brothers, is that right?
Yeah.
And did they finish school?
My older brother did. He finished high school. My younger brother, unfortunately, also got kicked out of school. I think partially because my acting out put a target on him.
Yeah.
The teachers had their fill of us, the three of us. Like my older brother Joe was not especially well behaved either. So by the time they got to my third brother, I think they were just like, we're kind of done with this family. And so he didn't last long. He got into some fights and got kicked out also.
You describe, on the one hand, you're kind of this hardened, oppositional, back-talking group of boys. On the other hand, you three are... Do you have a cat in the background?
I had him locked out, but he broke in.
That's okay. I was just saying that you also described this relationship with them that's very sweet, and that you all have these specific creative ambitions. Can you describe your relationship between your brothers and with creativity as well?
Yeah. So I think because I had this anchor of my relationship with my two brothers, we did a lot of creative things together. We played music together and stuff like that. Like, I think that probably formed my creative path in a way that was foundational. And I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if I didn't have that early collaborative experience of doing creative things with my two brothers. And I don't think you can replace that, because like it helps you form as a person in a lot of ways.
After getting kicked out of school, Christopher said his paruresis got better. He could do what he wanted, when he wanted, which often included playing music with his brothers and talking about movies. Coming up, how new social and professional challenges bring it roaring, trickling, clenching. It comes back. The paruresis comes back.
This situation of being with this guy who I was so uncomfortable around made it impossible. I would go into the bathroom and nothing would happen.
Hey, it's Anna, popping in to follow up on some of what we heard back after our episode last week with Alyssa Strauss about caregiving, its cost, and how it enriches us. I got an email from New York Times opinion writer Jessica Gross, who wrote in to say she was disappointed when I used the word dreariness with Alyssa when we were talking about the depiction of parenthood in recent books. Jessica wrote, "The dreariness was not about some kind of cool girl posturing or a lack of respect for the joy of care," and continued, "I can only speak for my own work, but the hundreds of parents I talked to in the years 2020 to 2021 were really struggling with the fallout of the loss of their jobs, the deaths in their families, and the loss of structure in their children's lives." For sure, caregiving can be an experience of feeling totally abandoned by institutions and social supports, and many certainly felt that during the pandemic, which Jess wrote about in her book, Screaming on the Inside, The Unsustainability of American Motherhood, which you should check out. And as I mentioned at the top of last week's episode, we're going to keep exploring stories of caregiving in all its complexities, including with a targeted look at paid caregivers. I asked you to send in your stories of earning money by looking after someone else, whether it's children, seniors, or anyone who needs a watchful eye. And we've already heard from some of you about how meaningful relationships with families impacted your working life moving forward.
I was working full-time with two toddlers, a little 2-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy, and I just loved them so much. Like, they became, I can't say my own, I now have kids of my own, and it's a different feeling, but they were incredibly important to me. I ended up, when I left that job, I wrote pages and pages and pages of notes for the next nanny who was coming in, and I was just like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I do know from what I'm experiencing as a nanny that it is just imperative that I care about the people who I work for or with.
We also heard from listeners about the private moments you've been witness to, including some really difficult ones.
I was responsible for watching all of the children and holding them while EMS arrived and police arrived and all of the things that have to happen after a tragic accident.
Send us your experiences of paid caregiving, how it shaped the rest of your working life if it's something you've moved on from. And we also want to hear from those of you who are currently working as paid caregivers in private homes, as a babysitter, a nanny, or a home health aide, at daycares or at facilities working with mentally disabled adults. What are your relationships like with the people you care for and with the people who pay you? Record a voice memo and send it to us at deathsexmoney@slate.com. There are a lot of celebrity interview shows out there, and they can be kind of expected and bland. That's exactly why NPR's newest show, Wild Card, sticks out so much. It's got huge thinkers, actors, and stars, sure, but it gets to what's weird about being alive in a way that's not been done before. Wild Card is sort of like an existential game show where a deck of cards controls a conversation, and the conversation feels like a party game. Host Rachel Martin brings out introspective responses from guests in an entertaining way. How it works is guests answer 3 to 5 questions drawn from a deck of cards, from surprising open-ended questions about their fears and childhoods to joys and disappointments. Wild Card goes there. It's a show that will help you think about huge questions and how they fit into your own life, and maybe we'll all feel a little less lonely in our search for answers, too. Tune in for engaging questions and thoughtful conversations that will make you think about your own life. Wild Card comes out every Thursday from NPR. Listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. My family moves from Berkeley, California to Northwest Wyoming in the summertime for my husband's work. And they are 2 pretty different places in America these days. My routines are different. I'm outside a lot more in Wyoming, around crowds of people a lot more in California. But you know what's the same? My microbiome. It comes with me on this journey. The 38 trillion bacteria that live in and on me, especially my gut. And they are essential to whole body health. Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic is a 24-strain probiotic and prebiotic that benefits your gut, skin, and heart health in just 2 capsules a day. Seed makes it easy. It's shelf-stable and doesn't require refrigeration. So I can start my day with a big glass of water and 2 capsules and be done. Your gut is a central hub for various pathways through the body, and a healthy gut microbiome means benefits for digestion, skin health, heart health, your immune system, and more. With clinical trials and breakthrough research published in top scientific journals, Seed's probiotic research and development makes DS-01 a product you can trust. Support your gut this summer with Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic. Go to seed.com/DSM and use code 25DSM to get 25% off your first month. That's 25% off your first month of Seed's DS-01 Daily Synbiotic at seed.com/DSM, code 25DSM. We have had a lot of exciting new things to share with you about the show recently, but this might be some of our biggest news yet. Death, Sex, and Money is officially going to be live in New York City at the Tribeca Festival on June 11th. And I want to personally invite you to the live taping we'll be doing with the legendary journalist Kara Swisher. If you know Kara's work, you know her ability to get people to tell her things is unmatched. And she does it in her signature hard-charging way. She's not afraid of things getting a little combustible. I have a slightly different interview style, so we're going to talk about that and play around with that in experimental ways that I think will make this a special show unlike any of our other live shows up to this point. And it's not often that I get to do a live Death, Sex, and Money show in New York, so I really hope to see you there. Whether you're in the city, on the East Coast, or just been looking for a reason to visit New York City, come on June 11th for this show. You can get tickets now at tribecafilm.com/deathsexmoney. We are so excited to see you there.
This is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate. I'm Zoe Azulay. After dropping out of school in 1987, Christopher Zara felt aimless. He lived at home for a while and got addicted to heroin. Then he got sober and moved to Florida, then Seattle. He worked odd jobs for money, and slowly, in his spare time, he started to build a passion, writing. He would go to libraries, and without the pressure of school making him feel like a failure, he learned to like to read. He liked words. And in his mid-30s, he took a shot. He started pitching magazine articles as a freelancer.
People didn't really ask your background. If you had a really great idea and they felt you could execute the idea, they would say yes.
He got a few things published, and with his confidence up, he moved to New York City. It was 2005, and he figured it was now or never to try to get a steady job as a writer.
So I made a decision. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to omit. And I just didn't put anything about education on my early resumes. I just left everything blank. I didn't put high school. I just put my writing experience, what little experience I had. And I got an internship that way. And that was a really big stroke of luck. It was a small newspaper called Show Business Weekly. It was geared toward actors and people working in theater in New York City. And that was a stroke of luck. It was small enough to where they could use all the help they could get. But it was prominent enough, at least at that time, to where it was a position that actually gave me some real experiences as a journalist, mingle with other journalists and learn how the business worked.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately had that effect, but you also write about how that boss was just a real asshole. Like he had no boundaries, terrible temper.
Yeah, double-edged sword. And what's interesting about that is he was really, it was definitely an unstable boss situation. And looking back on it, a lot of unacceptable behavior on his part. But because it was my first job in media in New York, there was a part of me that thought every job was going to be that way. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, what's the point of...
You just feel like you're lucky to be there.
Yeah, and you really do. That's one of the secrets that they feed young people. Like, you're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
So what are you complaining about?
Okay, so now I'm going to prompt you to tell this epic, relatable story. So you're working at Show Business Weekly. You're working basically 24 hours a day to print this one issue. You're essentially the only employee.
Yeah.
Your boss is a demagogue, and you, at the time, have a roommate who you're living with, and he's kind of putting pressure on you at home to be more than just roommates. He wants to be a friend, and he also is kind of insufferable, and you just want to go home and rest, and you don't. Your cup is empty, as they say, with someone who's an introvert with social anxiety. You're done fraternizing for the day. You want to go home and be left alone. So what happens?
Yeah, so that you describe it pretty accurately. It was through no fault of the roommate, although we did not get along, and so it got more and more untenable as time went on. He would say, well, "Why aren't you spending time with me?" Or, "We need to have a talk." Sometimes when I'd come home and I'm like, "Well, talk about what?" Like, I just want to go go into my room. There was a time after we realized we're not going to be friends, that we're just going to be roommates. I had to avoid him at all costs, and so I would go into my room, and I found that like the paruresis kind of came back. I would go into the bathroom and nothing would happen, and I'd come out and have no options. And somehow I brought his favorite Che Guevara mug into my bedroom with no intentions. I just had it in there because I think I was using it to actually drink water. But then there was one day when I just couldn't use the bathroom, and I went in the Che mug. Like that was and this guy loved Che. I mean, he was a big, he had at one point given me a copy of the Communist Manifesto. That's what he was like. But okay, so I had, I'd put it in my closet for safekeeping until I could get rid of the evidence at some point. But then he came looking for the mug because it was his favorite mug.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Where's my mug?" And I said, I don't know. And so he looked all around for it and couldn't find it. I had it hidden away, but I couldn't tell him where it was because it was full of pee. And so he thought I stole it. And then so like I snuck it back in when he wasn't looking, washed it out and put it back in its place and said, there it is. It was there the whole time. But he didn't buy that, and he always just thought something was weird, and weeks would go by, and he'd be like, I'm still thinking about that mug.
Oh, my God.
I looked everywhere, and it was what did you do with it? And that was the end of the relationship.
Oh, man.
He was just like, I want you out of here. Okay. And he's like, no, I mean, by the end of the month. And I was like, the end of the month was like a week from now.
Wow.
I was like, oh. And it's New York City. It's like, what am I going to do? Like, I got lucky. I found an SRO on the Upper West Side and was fortunate, really fortunate. It was a really crummy SRO, but it was cheap enough that I could afford it. And so
you were alone.
Yeah, exactly. And so that is just, I guess, an instance of how this paruresis can affect your life in a negative way.
Yeah. I mean, you wrote about that in the book. So did you ever have to come clean to him? Did he read it?
No, I don't know if he did. And I tried to get in touch with almost everyone in the book. I honestly couldn't find him. I don't know what happened to him.
After working at Show Business Weekly for 6 years, Christopher got a job at an online magazine, International Business Times. During his spare time, he managed to write his first book, A Cultural History of Suffering Artists, and he got it published. With each accomplishment, he felt stronger, sturdier in himself. But it was still easy to slip back and feel like an outsider.
The social anxiety I felt like under the office lights and just felt like this kind of weird alien with the white bald head probably didn't help.
And do you see your insecurity around your education level connected to the paruresis?
Yeah, I do. I think that again, it's classified as a social anxiety disorder, and I think they do coexist. I think it coexists with a lot of different social anxieties, especially. I'm curious in your case if that's true. Like, do you find you have anxiety in everyday social situations, or is it just isolated to the bathroom experience?
No, I have social anxiety, and it comes, like, I think the trigger, like in the story of the boat, it's like a feeling of being around new people, that they're not going to like me, and that there's a time parameter, and that I'm going to let people down if I take too long, I think is a feeling. And like, I just started at Slate here, and the other day I came in and someone was in the bathroom. It's like, I just knew. I was like, I'm not going to be able to pee. Like, I'll just come back later. But like that, I also feel a little, I don't really know anyone in the new office. So those things are certainly connected. I mean, for me, it also has gotten better. I think it comes in these casual ways where it's just like, like I'll come back to the bathroom later. I think I'd feel now like if I was in a long road trip with people and I was like, I wouldn't get back in the car until I peed. Like, I'm not going to do that again in my life. Like, I'm too old for that.
Yeah.
But like my last real dramatic real stint of this, I think, was right before the pandemic when I just started a new relationship. And I was really nervous because I really liked him and I felt like I wasn't good enough. Just all the things you feel in early dating. And I went to his apartment for the first time, and I knew it was a studio, but when I got there, he didn't have a bathroom door, and it was just... I
know that experience.
And it was just like a little bamboo curtain that like didn't even like close all the way, and there was just no way. So for the first few weeks or even month of our relationship, I would go, there was a coffee shop across the street that was like straight out of the 90s, like mismatched mugs, tattered couches, like Lisa Kudrow could walk in any minute. And it's like they had these late night open mic nights. So I would go and watch a little terrible comedy, pee there, and then go to his apartment.
Did he know that you...
I did tell him. I don't think I told him about the comedy, but I think I told him the first night. Because there was no there was no hiding it. Like there was nowhere to go. And I think he was
Right.
very nice about it. He was like, just take your time. Like and then later I you know, he didn't relate to that, but he has some bouts of hypochondria that can be really bad. And like, it's all kind of similar. It's like your body sort of reacting to your anxiety.
Yeah, and in a way that's just completely irrational. And when people will say like, "We'll just go," like it's hard to explain that you just can't.
Yeah.
Although I think in your situation where there was no door and it was a new relationship where you're already uncomfortable, that's fair. That's pretty understandable.
I know. I mean, this is something that I kind of ended up telling people in my life as a red flag of like, this guy is sort of weird. Anyway, he ended up getting a pocket door and it was very expensive. So that was something he did for me. And now we are married.
Oh, nice. So it's a happy ending.
It's a happy ending. Yeah. And you are married.
Yeah. She knows about it. Yeah. But interestingly, it really hasn't been a disruptive issue in a long time. And I think I didn't know any of this until I started to research the condition itself, but there is what they call exposure therapy is a pretty common treatment for it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that I was kind of doing this myself. It was sort of like self-treating myself with exposure therapy, which is where you gradually introduce yourself to the situation that causes the fear.
I mean, I always sort of thought men were more inoculated against this because of exposure therapy. Like you are literally asked to pee right next to each other in public spaces from when you're a little kid.
Yeah.
I feel like that would just make public peeing easier. Why is that not true?
Well, because I think it has the opposite effect. And there's the lack of privacy. It starts right away, and if this lack of privacy is something that makes you uncomfortable, especially as a kid, I think those situations where you're stuck, sharing a urinal with one of those like really long urinals they used to have with like 3 other boys, like that's not going to help the situation. It's going to make it worse.
Mm. Yeah, I was thinking about the female experience of this, which is that like girls go to the bathroom together. But help me understand that you said there's some tactics that have made it easier. Was this something you sort of devised? Like take me through that like process of figuring out ways that worked for you that made this a little better.
Yeah, I concocted this whole thing in my head where the part of me who couldn't go to the bathroom was this dark personality that was out to get me, just trying to sabotage my life. This is basically a scenario I concocted to help cope with it, and I was going to figure out a way to not fight him, but to negotiate with him. And so, like for example, I would do really strange things, like going into a urinal. Say the condition starts to flare up and you can't go. Mm-hmm. I would say something like, well, I'll stand here. Like you said before, you're not going to leave the bathroom until you go. Mm-hmm. In my case, I would do things like, all right, I'm going to take a $1 bill out and flush it down the toilet for every 5 minutes that you make me stand here. And here I'm negotiating with the dark side, the dark personality, the shadow self. But it's funny because I never actually had to get to the point where I would actually flush a $1 bill down the toilet. It was really just I don't know. It was something about going through the scenarios of, I could flush this $1 bill down the toilet, or I could take my credit card and throw it out the window. And I'll do that if you keep making me stand here. And that was this negotiation process.
It feels so hostile.
I know, but it worked. I don't know why it worked. And I'm not saying that will work for everyone, but it worked for me. And once that worked a couple times and I knew I had that tactic, it just started to get better.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not a pep talk. It's sort of a threat.
Yeah, I guess so.
I would sing to myself, and like the songs that I would, so embarrassing, singing Jimmy Crack Corn is the only time it ever sang that song is when I like just weird songs, and that sometimes would help because you distract yourself or whistle.
I wonder if it's the distraction element that actually makes it work, because what it really is once you're distracted, the anxiety, the physical part of the anxiety kind of goes away.
So you wrote about, one of the books that you wrote was about how suffering can lead to art, good art.
Yeah.
Do you think there's anything good about this condition? Like, does it make you more sensitive, more permeable to others, able to write in a way?
Oh, that's a good tie-in. I haven't really thought about that, except in the sense that it gave me some good, interesting anecdotes, like the Che mug.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think there is a good side to it. And the good thing is, getting back to like me, saying before that I've been pretty successful at managing it, and to the point where it doesn't control my life anymore. I think having that success is nice.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me confident in that I can beat other things that feel somewhat self-inflicted. Anything that has to do with anxiety. There's a lot of different elements of anxiety that I find disruptive in my life. And one of them is just everyday conversation sometimes, where I get these really weird bouts of anxiety. But I feel like if I can beat the paruresis, I can beat the other ones too.
That's Christopher Zara. His book, Uneducated, a memoir of flunking out, falling apart, and finding my worth, is out now. This episode was produced by me, Zoe Azulay. Anna Sale will be back in your ears next week. Death, Sex, and Money is produced by Slate. Please support the production of our show by becoming a member of Slate Plus. You'll not only support our work on Death, Sex, and Money, you'll get access to new benefits, including listening to us and all of the great shows Slate makes, like Slow Burn and Decoder Ring, without any ads or sponsor breaks. Be a part of helping us build a solid foundation in Death, Sex, and Money's new home by subscribing to Slate Plus. To subscribe, just click Try Free at the top of the Death, Sex, and Money show page on Apple Podcasts, or visit slate.com/DSM Plus to get access wherever you listen. You'll be supporting the show and the people who make Death, Sex, and Money with me at Slate. Andrew Dunn, Cameron Drews, Daisy Rosario is our senior supervising producer at Slate. Alicia Montgomery is Slate's head of audio. Our theme music is by the Reverend John DeLore and Steve Lewis. And do you know what's worse than a disgusting bathroom in a music venue? Not being able to use a disgusting bathroom in a music venue.
I was in the punk scene when I was younger. I don't know if you remember, CBGB notoriously did not have a stall, or did not have a door on the stall. It was just a toilet in the middle of a room.
Oh my God. Yeah, I have one memory of being in a club in Berlin, and the line going, sneaking around the club, and just there's nothing that raises the stakes as a slow-moving line. I'm Zoe Azulay, and this is Death, Sex, and Money from Slate.
Spring is the best time to start a new workout routine. It is our yearly collective warm-up, and Peloton accommodates you with a variety of classes and lengths to choose from. Even if you only have 5 minutes, Peloton has classes for you, from guided hikes, Pilates, to HIIT rides. Peloton has everything you need to get where you're going, whether you prefer to run outdoors, row or ride at home, or strength train at the gym. Peloton has something for you. Get a head start on summer with Peloton and choose a flexible payment plan that works for you at onepeloton.com/financing.
McDonald's presents Burger Reviews by Hamburglar. Today's review: the hotter, juicier classic burgers. Mr. Hamburglar, robble, robble. He said, "Of all the McDonald's burgers I've ever hamburgled, these are the hottest, juiciest, and tastiest." Brabble.
Hamburglary is on the rise. Get caught with the medium double cheeseburger meal for $6. Price and participation may vary. Promotion pricing may be lower than meal price. Comparison to prior classic burgers.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.